Right, in the previous class, we were discussing about pointers and dynamic memory allocation and the dynamically allocated array. So this is what we were discussing, one-dimensional arrays. So this part, malloc function was being discussed. Malloc function was being discussed. So what I do is I'll just take this out to the paint so that it will be helpful for me to explain the things. Right. So the meaning of dynamic memory allocation. So what it does here is right. So hash define keyword we have used. So we have used hash define keyword already. Why do we use hash define? When you write hash define a space 10, the meaning of this here is wherever we use the term a in the program, that means we are writing 10. Wherever we use a, that means we are writing it as 10. So another example could be hash define pi 3.142. So pi is 3.142. We all know that the value of pi is 3.142. Instead of writing it again and again every time, so you can just write pi. So we are defining one new data type with the value of 3.142. So same way, what we are doing here is we are trying to define what? We are trying to define one macro. So what is the meaning of that macro? So the meaning of that macro is this much, the whole body. What should happen whenever you refer to that particular term during the program? So for this malloc, we are giving one meaning. This is what is the meaning which is given for that particular macro. So the meaning here is P is a pointer, N is the size, and type is the data type of the data, whether it is integer type of data, character, float, or whatever. So whenever we use this term in the program, that means we are referring to this short form. For this, we are giving short form. And usually the macros are written in the same line. Usually the macros are written in the same line. That means hash define this name and this whole line, whatever I have typed here, it must come in the same line here. But while typing, we may not have, it is not good to see one big horizontal line. So for that purpose, what we do, we use the slash. So what this slash indicates here is the macros are written in the single line, and slash is an instruction for preprocessor that all the lines following slash are continuation of the first line of that macro. So what this slash indicates here is, this slash, what it indicates here is all these lines, whatever are following, they are part of this single line itself. They are part of the single line itself. So to refer to that, we are using the slash. Now coming to the definition, I'll explain the meaning of this definition. So what this definition says here is P is a pointer which is predefined. So P is a pointer. Then this is typecasting of whatever type you specify here. And malloc is the predefined function in C. Malloc indicates memory allocation. So it will allocate the memory of specified size. So that is n into whatever value, whatever number of values you want. That is n. If you want 5, value of n will be 5 into size of data type. So if you are using integer, then it will take 4 bytes. If you consider float, then it will take 8 bytes. So that is what it indicates. If it is integer, the type will be 4. So total outcome of this is 4. So 5 into 4 will be 20. So allocate memory containing 20 locations. That means if the integer is taking say 4 bytes, and n means I want n number of blocks. So 5, if it is 5 into 4 is how much? 20. That means overall outcome of this is 20. So that 20 locations will be allocated to P. Now where P is pointing to the memory location which is of size 20 bytes, which is of size 20 bytes. Now, whenever you execute this, there are two possibilities. Either the memory will be allocated successfully or the memory allocation may fail. Memory will be allocated successfully or memory allocation may fail. So if memory, when the memory allocation will fail, when the memory is full. So you must have observed in your day-to-day lives, whenever your mobile memory or system memory is coming full, you will get a warning message saying that the memory is full. The same thing may happen with the systems also. So when there is a insufficient memory, then P will be pointing to null. Then P will be pointing to null. So what happens here is, in this outcome, if the memory allocation is successful, the memory allocation is successful, right? Assume this is the memory location. Right, assume I'll simply take one memory location. These are the locations, right? Now, a memory addressing, as I said, it will start from some location and go to maximum memory location, say 5000. Now, if the how much memory we have allocated here, we have allocated 20 bytes. So somewhere in the memory, the P will be pointing to beginning of that location. P will be pointing to beginning of that location. So where P is pointing to the memory locations from here to here. P will be pointing to memory locations from here to here. So I'll just take different color for this explanation. So what is happening? P is pointing to this particular memory location. So P is pointing to this particular memory location. And what is the size of this memory location? 20 bytes. So why it is 20 bytes? Because 5 into 4 is 20. And we are allocating memory which is of size 20. And that allocated memory is being assigned to P. So ultimately P, this is what is memory. This is what is our memory. This is what is our memory or main memory or RAM. In the memory, P is pointing to some block of memory. So this is what is block of memory. So P is pointing to some block of memory which is containing a size of 20. Now assume during allocation, if this whole memory itself is full, there is no free memory available. In that case, P will not be pointing to any of the locations. P will not be pointing to any of the locations, and then P will be pointing to null. If P is null, that means memory allocation is failed. Then we give an error message saying that insufficient memory, then exit. Insufficient memory and exit. So two possibilities: either the memory allocation will be successful or the memory may not get allocated. If memory is not getting allocated, we have to throw error message. So usually this error message will be seen very rarely, right? So what we do here is, from now onwards, while writing the program, we refer to only this term. What it is? malloc of P comma n comma type. So when I refer to this term, nothing but I am doing this everything. So we are referring to this whole thing. So you must remember that malloc is nothing but the macro, and actually this is what is dynamic memory allocation function. But for that we are giving some short form and using. So this will be used throughout in the programs and all. Right. So this is what was the dynamic memory allocation. Now one more example could be macro to swap two elements. So macro to swap two elements. So another example I will take for defining a macro swapping of two elements. Right. So this is the code, macro to swap two elements. So what we are trying to do here is we're trying to define a macro. We're trying to define a macro. So what is that macro? Name of the macro is swap of x comma y comma temp. Name of the macro. So what we do, hash define a new macro with the name called swap of x comma y comma temp, because this is what is the code for swapping. So how do we swap an element? Temp is equal to x. Say x is equal to 5 and y is equal to 10. So how do you swap the values? That means you have to assign 10 to x and 5 to y. So how do you swap? We'll take one temporary variable x, a temporary variable temp, and for that we assign the value of, so assume x, this is x and this is y. X is temp, sorry, x is having a value of 5 and y is having a value of 10. Y is having a value of 10. Now we will take one temporary variable for swapping the values of x and y. So for that temporary variable, what we are doing, first step we are trying to assign the value of x to temp. So what is present in x? X we have 5. That 5 will be copied to temp. So next line, this is first line. Next line is x equal to y. X is equal to y. So what we do? The value of y will be assigned to x. So what is present in y? In y we have 10, that will be assigned to x. That means old value of x will be eliminated and new value 10. Old value of x will be eliminated and new value 10 will be assigned to x. So old value will be overwritten. What is the next step? Assign the temp to the y. That is temp is equal to y. So what is present in y now? In y we have, I wrote it reverse, right? What is the next step? Y equal to temp. So y equal to temp. What is present in y? In present value of y is 10. The present value of temp is 5. This 5 is assigned to y. This whatever value is present in temp, assign that to y. In temp we have 5, so that will be assigned to y. So y will get a value of 5. This is how the procedure for exchanging the values of two numbers. But instead of writing this part of code again and again in the program, what we do, we simply define a macro, short form for that, right? Nothing but we are writing all these lines in our program. So that is what is meaning of macro. So assume there are 100 lines. Instead of writing 100 lines again and again in our program, so what we can do here is we can define the macro once. So write the macro name once and write the definition once. And wherever we want in the program, we can go on using these lines only by specifying name of the macro. So that was one more example of macro definition for swapping the numbers. So same way, now how can we allocate memory for that? So this is one more example. What I will do, I'll take both of these. Right. So next part is to allocate memory. To allocate memory for one integer, we write. So how do we write? First thing is you have to define the pointer. Like just now I explained malloc. The definition of this is already told just now. So what I'm trying to do here is I have defined a pointer variable p and then call the malloc macro. So whenever you call the malloc macro, what happens? I'll show it here. I'll come back. This is what is going to happen whenever I call the malloc macro. So again, we are not writing all these lines here. What I'm doing, I'm simply calling this malloc. So by mentioning parameters, what p comma n comma type. So what are the values for p comma n comma type? Here p is pointer, any name you can give. What is the value of n? N is 1. So I want only one block. What type of data I want? I want integer type of data. I want integer type of data. So what it does here is after this line, p will be pointing to some memory location. That is only one memory location. Why only one memory location? Because the n is 1. And what type of data? Integer type of data. So in the next step, what is happening to that location, that is star p, that is value of the location. What star p indicates? Value of the location where p is pointing to. So where p is pointing to this location. So in that location, you write the value of 10. So this 10 will be assigned here. So p will get a value of 10. So that is one example. Another example you can take, if you want to allocate memory for 5 integers. So how do you write this code? Same as that of this. The only difference here is pointer name is a here. Here pointer name was p. So for the pointer a, allocate 5 blocks of type integer. So if each integer is taking 4 bytes, so assume each integer is taking 4 bytes, and how many locations I want? 5 locations. 5 into 4 is how much? 20. So where A will point now? A is pointing to a memory location which is containing 20 locations. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on up to 20 locations. Why? Because size of integer is 4. Kindly mute yourself, all of you. Right, this is what is going to happen with the malloc. So you'll get question like explain the dynamic memory allocation functions. So 3 functions we have: malloc, calloc, and realloc. So with the malloc, the specified number of blocks will be allocated. The specified number of blocks will be allocated with the malloc. Now coming to this is simple program. This is where one sample scenario is shown. This is where the malloc is being used with general term a, n, and int. So here any value of n you can give. Two examples we have seen for value of 1 and for the value of 5. Right, all this part is a representation of arrays and contains addresses. This is already told. Right. So next concept here is which will be useful in the programming, that is pointers to pointers. So pointers to pointer. Pointer, we know that it's a variable which contains address of another variable. So pointer is an entity which contains address of another variable. I hope after zooming you can see the things clearly. So pointer to pointer, a variable which contains address of a pointer variable is called as a pointer to a pointer, because normally a pointer contains address of a variable. So if you take this example, a is normal variable, p1 is a pointer variable, and p2 is a pointer to pointer. So usually how it works. So usually how it works here is, you take this part for explanation purpose, right? Pointer to a pointer. So pointers, if you know the pointers, understanding pointer to pointer will not be difficult for you. So when I write int a, so what we are doing here is in the memory. So please concentrate. Pointer to pointer. This is some memory. This is memory location. Say whenever you declare a variable a, so they'll be having addresses starting from 0. Say it is 1000 and then it is 5000 memory addresses. Then I'll take here something called 500. Yes, 500. So when I declare variable a, it will get some location here in the memory. Say for example, a has got an address of 500. So in the main memory, the address reserved for a is 500. The address reserved for a is 500. Next, when you declared p1, so what is p1? P1 here is pointer. So because star indicates it's a pointer. So again for p1 also there will be some memory allocated. So say for example, p1 it is 1000. So during the execution, the memory addresses need not be the same. For explanation purpose, I have taken these memory addresses. Now P1 has got an address of 1000, and next take P2. P2 say assume it has got an address of 5000. So this is what is going to happen whenever you write these lines. That means now we have declared 3 variables, 1 normal variable and 2 pointer variables. One normal variable and 2 pointer variables. So let us come to this example now. So single p star indicates it is a pointer variable. So double star indicates p2 is a pointer to pointer. P2 is a pointer to pointer. That means p2 will point to a pointer variable. P2 will point to a pointer variable. Say when I take this example, and I take this example for explanation purpose. I hope you can see. Right? So for that, when we have these many things, what we are doing here is for A, we are allocating a value of 10. For A, we are allocating a value of 10. So 10 will be stored here in this location. Next, what these two are pointers as well. Now we are assigning the address of A to P1. Obtain the address of A and assign it to P1. So what is address of A? A has got an address of 500. So that 500 we are assigning it to what? We are assigning it to P1. What P1 will contain? P1 will contain value 500. Why 500? Because address of A is 500. So nothing but this P1 is pointing to A. P1 is containing the address of A. Address of A is being assigned to P1. Next, address of P1 is being assigned to P2. So take address of P1 and assign it to P2. What is address of this P1? Address of this P1 is 1000. Address of this P1 is 1000. So that 1000 is being assigned to what? P2. So now P2 is present here. What P2 will get? P2 will get a value of 1000. Why? Because P2 is a pointer to a pointer. So P2 is pointing to P1. So nothing but when P1 is pointing to A, P2 is pointing to P1. By using P2, we can directly access value of indirectly. So P1 is pointing to A, P2 is pointing to P1. By using P2, you can access the value of A. That is possible. So that's what we are trying to do here is the print statement. What we are trying to do, use star 2 times with the P2. So whenever you write first star P2, it will go to this 500 location. Then this star will refer to the value 10 here. So this is how the pointers work. This is how the pointers work. Now coming to, I'll take an sample example with two-dimensional arrays. So there is one bit called representation of arrays in memory. That is two-dimensional array. So what is two-dimensional array? Is represented as one-dimensional array of pointers where each pointer contains address of the one-dimensional array. So when you see this, these are the rows and these are the columns. So A of 3, 5. So this is what is two-dimensional. We have been writing till now like this. So what we were writing? A is a two-dimensional array which contains 3 rows and 5 columns. So when you see only this much, what you will come to know? When you merge this first row, second row and third row. Right? When you merge this is the first row and this is the second row and this is the third row. I'll take it here in the paint. Right? See, if you observe only this part, so what it says, there are 3 rows, first row, second row and third row, and in every row we have 5 columns, first column, second column, third column, fourth column and fifth column. So but what we write only two-dimensional array like this, A of 3, 5. This is what is A. But actually what happens at the implementation level, we are first assigning 3 pointers, 3 rows. We are first assigning row pointers. Then for every row pointer, we are assigning 5 columns. For every row pointer, we are assigning 5 columns. That means first create a row, that is A of 0, first row. Then that is going to contain 5 columns. First column, second, 3 and 4, 5. Then A of 1, second row, that is also going to contain 5 columns. Third row, that is going to contain 5 columns. So that is how the pointers are used in two-dimensional arrays. So when you write here, implicitly we are using pointers in two-dimensional arrays. Without our knowledge, we are using pointers in two-dimensional arrays. Right? Now let us see how to create a 2D array dynamically. So how can we create? So as we know, first we should allocate memory for these rows. Because this is what is, first you reserve rows, then for every row reserve 5 columns. That is what is 3 rows, 5 columns. First we should have pointers for 3 rows, then we should have in every row 5 columns. So the same implementation code is there. What it says, allocate memory for the specified number of row pointers, then allocate memory for each row with the specified number of columns. So simple procedure. Let us see the coding part. In different ways we can use. So I'll visit back to our malloc. So what malloc does? Now I'm calling the macro definition here. Instead of writing that whole part, I'm just writing malloc. What it does? X rows. X is a pointer which is going to contain the rows and of what type? Of integer type. Then for every row, starting from 0 to rows. So assume there are 3 rows. So I'll take this part. I'll paste it here. Right, now coming to the implementation part. Right, so in comparison with this above diagram, I'll call the malloc macro and assign it to the row value called x. So now x is representing all the rows. So how many rows? Whatever rows you have specified. In our case, it is 3 rows. In our case, it is 3 rows. That means 0th row, first row, and second row. Because array indexing will start from 0. You can see already it is drawn here. 0th row, first row, and second row. Now this will allocate memory for the row pointers, and how malloc works, that is already I have explained. Then for every row, so how you should write a two-dimensional array. For every row, we should represent. For every row, we should have 5 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 columns. So that's what we are doing here. For every row, for 0th row, then for first row, second row, this is for loop. It will increment for 3 times, 0, 1, 2. Then for every row, allocate again, call malloc macro. And for ith index, that is for 0th index, allocate these many columns of type integer. So how many columns you have to allocate? So what is that second index? It is 5. So you have to allocate 5 columns. Again, it will start from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. After allocation, the for loop will be incremented and control will get transferred to next iteration. For loop will get incremented and it will go to incrementing. It will go to control will go to incrementing. So I will be incremented by 1. The new value of I will become 1. So that means now the memory will get allocated for second row. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the memory will get allocated for second row. So again, the I will be incremented. This time the value of I will become 2. So condition is true. Then allocate memory for second row. So again, it will get allocated memory for second row. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Fifth block. So these many blocks have been allocated. So this is how the macro can be used here. And simply finally what we are trying to return here is, finally we are trying to return the value of x. So what is x? So this is what is our x, which is nothing but referring to this whole matrix. And this is already shown here. This is how the memory allocation will take place for the array. The same can be written like this with the pointers. Same code can be written like this. So three different ways are there. So one sample example could be addition of matrices, two matrices. So this code I think you must have studied in C. So how do we add the matrix elements? So for row pointer, one for loop, outer for loop is pointing to rows, inner for loop for columns. Then sum is given by individual elements. C of ij equal to A of ij plus B of ij. If it is array, normal array, if you are using pointers, this here it is given for understanding purpose. Actually, how it works implicitly with the help of pointers. Similarly, one more example is there for matrix multiplication. So we know that remaining where everywhere it is same, only the matrix multiplication part is going to change. So how do we get A of ik into B of kj? That is sum is equal to sum plus A of ik into B of kj. So that is the normal code, and we are going to save the multiplied value, intermediate value in C matrix, like the same what we have studied in C. Similarly, we can write code for like whatever two-dimensional arrays you use. All these are examples for two-dimensional arrays. The only foundation here is you should know how this works. The only foundation part here is we should know that how this malloc is going to work. That's it. Now, when we have malloc, there is some other next function is calloc. Calloc, what it does, calloc is also going to allocate required memory during the execution. Calloc is also a dynamic memory allocation function. So are you connected till now? Can someone respond? Is the things are clear, audio and video quality?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right, good. Thank you. So using calloc function. So what the difference here is, same procedure for malloc. First we should have one pointer, then this is the code. So p equal to what data type you want, then calloc function followed by n comma size. That is the general syntax. So where p indicates a pointer variable which is going to point to specified type, and data type is any data type, either int, float or char. Then n indicates number of blocks to be allocated. So what n indicates? N indicates the number of blocks to be allocated. How many blocks you want? 5 blocks, 10 blocks, 20 blocks. Then size indicates in every block what size you want. In every block what size you want. Specifically, if ptr is a pointer, I'll write this part. What it says here is, so one key difference you should know here about calloc, I didn't explain you that. Execution, and the difference here is automatically initialize memory with zeros. So what calloc does, it will allocate the required number of blocks with required size and then automatically make that to 0. So that is the thing. So when I take it here, this whole example I'll take for explanation purpose. Right. So this is one sample example for calloc. Calloc, what it does, calloc, how many blocks you want? 5 blocks. And what type you want? Integer type. That means if integer is going to take 4 bytes and I want 5 such blocks, this 5 into 4 equal to 20. So totally 20 bytes will be allocated. So now where ptr is pointing? ptr is pointing to a memory block. ptr is pointing to a memory block. So how many blocks? First indicates 5 blocks. So first block, block number 1, block number 2, block number 3, and block number 4. This is block number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. For understanding purpose, I have written the numbers. Now in every block, what is the size of every block? Of type integer. That means 4 bytes. Every block will have the 4 bytes. So those bytes I will show here with different color, right? So these are 4 blocks in that one. 1, 2, 3, 4 bytes. Next 1, 2, 3, 4 bytes. 1, 2, 4 bytes. Right? Every block is going to get 4 bytes. So after this allocation, what calloc does? Automatically allocate 0 at every byte. That means 0, 0, 0, 0. But whereas malloc, it was not allocating. Default value was getting stored. 0, 0, 0. Everywhere 0 will be initialized. After allocation, every location will be initialized with the 0. So that is what is property of the CAlloc. So when you see here what it says, automatically initialize the memory with zeros. Automatically initialize the memory with zeros. So that is the only difference between CAlloc and malloc. CAlloc will allocate required number of blocks with the required size, and then initialize them to zeros. Now realloc is also a third function which is also used for dynamic memory allocation, and the property of this function is to reallocate or resize the memory which is already allocated by using either malloc or CAlloc. So you have reserved or allocated some memory either by using this malloc or by using CAlloc, but that allocated memory you want to resize. That is, either if you want to increase the size, you can increase, or if you want to decrease, you can decrease the size. That is possible only with the help of realloc. As the name itself says, reallocate the memory which is already allocated. Two types of reallocation you can do. Either you can increase the size or you can decrease the size. In both the cases, we'll be using this common syntax. What is that? PTR. For this type of pointer, reallocate the memory to what? To this pointer PTR. Do this new size. New size can be anything. If the present size is 10 and new size is 20, the PTR will get the 20 locations. Right? Size is the new size to be reserved by replacing the old size. So I will take this example. Specifically, it will help you to understand how actually the realloc will work. So once we have allocated memory, how we can reallocate that? So how we can reallocate the already allocated memory, right? Say it is a string, is a pointer, character pointer we are taking, and for that we are first thing is we are allocating a memory of size 10 and assign it to str. What is happening here now? After this line, I'll write it in front of this line itself. In front of this line itself. So what happens here is str is a character array. For that, what size we are giving? We are giving a size of 10. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 10 locations are being reserved. So string is an array now because we have allocated by using dynamic memory allocation. Next, for the string copy is the string copy function strcpy. We'll be studying it later. So what it does here is this function is used for allocating some value for the string variable. For this str, we are giving some new value called computer. So what happens here is in this one, computer will get stored. COMPUTER. So computer will get stored in this location. Now simply we are printing it in the next line. Now assume that instead of computer, if you want to store something like this, computer science and engineering, but there is not sufficient space here. We don't have sufficient space. How much space is left? Only 2 locations are left out. So for that purpose, if in this string array, if you want to store computer science and engineering, you should try increasing the size of that. So for that purpose, what we do in this line here is we are trying to reallocate memory for this str. The present memory is 10 locations. Now we want to reallocate memory for this str. How many locations you want to allocate? You want to allocate 40 locations. Now this str will get 40 locations. I am trying to increase because I want more space. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right, and so on. 40 locations it will get. Now after that, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to assign computer science and engineering because now we have sufficient space. So it will allocate computer science and engineering because during the execution you may want more space for the variables. Then we can do by using this. Reverse is also possible. That means after this line you can write this code. You can write this code here. This line, that means from 20 again I want to reduce it to 10. That is also possible. So right, with this what happens, this portion will be truncated and new location will be given. It will be reduced. And the point to be remembered about reallocation here is, if the continuous memory location is available, it will be allocated. If it is not available, so I'll take the diagram and I'll explain. So you should know properly how actually the realloc is going to work. Right? 0, it is 5,000. So here some data is there, 5, 9, 2, 6, some data is already available. And this is what is your PTR. Your PTR is containing computer here. Now what you want more size, 40 location. From 0 to 10 already, this is the location occupied by the PTR. But you want to increase it to 40, but you cannot increase, already some value is available here. So in that case, what happens? This whole PTR itself will be shifted. So it will be given with the new location, entire new location containing 40 locations. That means how PTR works. If the space can be extended, if the immediately after at the end, if the space is available, just increase that. If space is not available, then take the entire PTR and shift it to the new location. That is how the realloc is going to work. That is how realloc is going to work. So this was the part what I wanted to convey. Like so this is our memory allocation. Dynamically allocated array is nothing but what we have discussed now. Representation of linear arrays in memory, that is also discussed in the beginning. Now this completes the introduction part. So introduction part is completed. That is basically what is required for data structure, that is fundamentals are given now. So next bit what we have here is array operations. So different operations on the arrays.